It's June 12, 2020. Just updates on the garden, and I want to show you the tomato harvest. This is the most I've had so far. So it's funny because in the last few years, in the beginning I had great tomatoes harvest, and then it kind of just declined year after year. um, and it's funny with this garden is every time I ask God for a particular plant, especially because I don't want to buy them, he always does something to help me acquire it. And so this year I was praying for more tomato harvest because the last few years before this year, it was just very discouraging. I couldn't get tomatoes to give me more than maybe half a dozen. So this year, God has been really, really provided me with a lot of bounty. So I'm very blessed. So I've been giving out a lot of tomatoes. And I just want to show you how what the tomatoes look like right now. So I do have different varieties. The tomatoes, like I posted in my different videos, are either volunteer or store-bought, or I seeded them. So it's all a mixed here. And what you're looking at right now is really my my culture, and you can't see it anymore. This used to be just grass, this whole section here, and I had a whole bunch of scrap branches and twigs and all that that I couldn't just put in the chipper. So I had dug, it's not even deep, it's about probably less than a foot, and I just piled them up. So this was a little bit of a mound. You can't see them now, it's all decomposed and it's all flattened, but underneath that there's a lot of spongy material in the form of decomposing wood and compost and all the other clippings. So this is a great example of what the benefits of horticulture is. So I've been doing this in small scales, like in pots, just kind of layering, just following that principle. But if you look into what it should be an actual mound where it could be anywhere from 3 feet to 5 feet tall, because it actually an actual mound that you plant over. But I'm not gonna do that anytime soon. I think, at least for now. But anyway, so here are my tomatoes. So this is one that I seeded. I started from seed, and I have to cover it. I have these coverings, but on the side there's really nothing to protect them, so I need to put in some covers. My son is very excited about this. He said these things are very dense. It's very tough, or you can tell that it's full. It's like a little cantaloupe. So it will be a shame if the birds beat me to it. So here's another look at that. So I'm doing this video, but I'm not really watching the camera. I'm just watching it off the side. So I need to do a better job. Okay, so here they are. These tomatoes right here. Okay, so then I'll move on to the right, and you'll see all of these different tomatoes, kind of like in clusters. So the one thing that I have done different this year, other than praying for it, is trimming it, or cutting the leaves more aggressively than I've ever done before. So I've been watching different videos of folks who have done tomatoes, and the one thing that's very common is that you need to cut the suckers and the bottom leaves and as much foliage as you can, so that the plant will concentrate on providing fruit. So, and here's a testament of that. This one this one row of tomatoes had so much leaves. It's beautiful. The leaves were nice and dark, and they were big. And I think that was my problem before. I would always admire them because they have so much leaves. So, and that was the reason why I wasn't getting enough. So now that I've trimmed them, you can see it's obvious that the tree is really bearing so much fruits. I didn't do a good job doing trellis on here. I didn't realize it was going to be this big, so now I know. So you can see all of these tomatoes here, and there are some more all the way through here. And I was just admiring this today. I was watering earlier, and I don't know that you can see, but from this angle when I was watering, you can see all of these tomatoes kind of on the side, like little clusters of big grapes. It was awesome. Well, it is awesome because it's still here. All right, so here's another explanation of this squash. So this squash, again, it's on the hugelkultur. It's just one plant. So what I did with this plant is I trained it to go this way. All right, and see how that little hoop over there, I trained it to go up there. But I noticed when we have days where it's really hot, that the ends of the squash gets wilted, and then the buds that I have there do not become squash. They kind of just die. So what I've done is all the ones that kind of look sick, I just cut them up to this point. And then when I did that, it encouraged these little suckers to grow in between. And so I'm trying to cut this. Oh, I cut the wrong thing. Okay. So these suckers are gonna try to grow more flowers, and it's gonna try to expand, and I really don't want it expanding to that section because I need to be able to walk in the back, because I do have some vegetables and a tree over there, and I need to have room to trim that. I mean, it's scary enough back there, and I don't need to have bushes hiding snakes. So anyway, so this is the main branch right here. So now what it did when I cut that from that side, it grew, it kind of forked. So it created a little fork branch. So then what I did was I allowed it to get up here and all the way down this trellis. And I'm probably gonna get a lot of sun here. But as I had it growing up there, then it allowed for it, I think it just made it more helpful for these squashes to form. And I've already harvested 2 squashes from this plant. So as you can see, so here's the main growth right there. Here's the main growth, and so this is where it forked, and there's the other section right here that branched out to this side. So now I have 2 main branches, and so I realized the more you clip them, the more they'll grow. And I don't know why it never occurred to me. One guy on YouTube pointed out that it's the same as maintaining squashes and even cucumbers. So all the squash vines, all of these vining plants need to be trimmed off with the suckers, so that it would concentrate more on growth of fruits and flowers. All right, so here's a shot of that squash. So there's one squash here, another squash right there, and then I just discovered this today. So here's another one. So now I have 3, and there are a lot more vines and buds here. So pretty soon I'm gonna have more than 3. Okay, so here's the upo. The upo came from this side. So I actually have 3 plants. So I have one, this is the root system, and that's the root system, and that's the root system. So that's the squash, and that's the upo, and the upo kind of trails up. So I follow the same principle. I just started trimming most of the plants that are on the branch, and you'll see it coming through here, and that encouraged growth. Okay, so I thought I'm gonna have two, but this one didn't make it, but that's okay. We have plenty of time. Upo loves the heat. So then this is the sayote, this root system right here. Now it has, you can see there are two branches here. So what I'm doing is I allowed the second branch to come up here only as a support, but really you can see it trailed off another here and all the way to the side. Now this sayote hasn't given me any flowers yet, and from what I've seen on YouTube, it does that. This is pretty normal, but once it starts getting really hot, this whole plant is going to explode with growth and hopefully with a lot more flowers. So the plan is, so you can see I had it trained over here, and so my plan, and I realized that my plan is really not well thought of because I didn't plan for weight of the branches and the plant itself. So I have this chicken fence. It's plastic and it's holding it up. Now if it's any other plant like this is a purple yam. If it grows here, it won't be too bad because really all it's going to give me are leaves, but eventually the sayote is going to give me fruits, and so it's going to weigh this down. So at some point I'm going to have, see, you can see it's not really very strong, so I need to support it. Either I support it by putting another rope over here to hang it up, like kind of suspend it, or put another post on the ground. So here's another interesting story. I have these little pots I have everywhere where every time I trim plants, I take off branches, I always have pots around me, so then that way I can I'll maintain like a mini compost section. So this one you can see all at the bottom, and I just added dirt there. Really underneath that, all it had were these branches, these dead leaves, and somehow I guess when I was pulling up plants, I had pulled up this purple yam, this Japanese yam, and it just started growing. And this pot right here is very dry. It doesn't have any irrigation that hits it most of the time. So I'm surprised that it likes it here. So I'm gonna allow it to grow, and I've seen this grow very quickly with the leaves. It's pretty, and it's gonna eventually cover this entire netting. All right, so here's another example of a great volunteer. This is the wing bean. I planted a wing bean here last year on purpose, and it kind of did okay. It had a few fruits, but I pretty much just left it alone. So I guess, and I never pulled it, so I'm thinking this is the same root system. It wouldn't have been from a seed because it's just right on the same spot, so I'm thinking it's the same plant. So what I've done here is I put up a post, and so I'm training it to go up, and it's already giving me well, it was giving me flowers. I don't know where it went now. Oh yeah, it's giving me flowers now. Oops, and I just picked that off. I guess it needs to put out another flower. Okay, but what I'm doing here is I'm training it so that it's really just in this section. All right, I'm getting a lot of glare on this side, so I don't think you guys are going to be able to see very well. Okay, here's another part where what I had here before was just crazy mess. It's a mixture of this bean. I think this is called the navy bean, or we call it bataw in the Philippines, and a mixture of the bitter melon and some flowers. So this whole section here was a whole lot of mess, but that whole lot of mess created a lot of mulch. So actually this is one of my healthiest beds, because when I dug up and got some dirt here to put in a pot, it was one of the darkest ones, and it looked really good. I'm gonna have to get rid of this section right here because it's just taking up too much space. This is the Purple Heart, and really I have too much of these. I can afford to get rid of that. And this I just trimmed this. This is a volunteer calamansi, and I have volunteer calamansi tree growing pretty much around the perimeter. So here I just transplanted this papaya that sprouted from the compost. So I had it in a pot for a while, and then among this section, and this is what I'm watching, is this is a cassava or a yucca that I bought in Etsy. There's actually two of them here. There's one section here, and this one finally sprouted. I don't know what's happening here. And I also saw a lot of little seedlings here for cilantro, but I this is just a testament that seeds will grow when it's healthy for them, because it just died. But pretty soon in the next spring or in the fall, I'm sure it's gonna sprout again. It's just not cilantro season, it's just too hot. Anyway, so I have ginger also that I bought from the well, actually I took from my sister-in-law's house because she had them on the counter, and they were getting ready to sprout. So I have ginger, so I'm excited about this section, specifically because of the ginger, the papaya, and the yucca or the cassava. And then here I allowing this one wing bean, this one bataw to grow. This is one of those monster plants here that I allowed to go out of control, and then they were just sprouting everywhere. So it's still a good vegetable, but I'm at this point I'm only gonna have one plant, and I'm gonna control it, and that's all I'm gonna have going forward. So here is a cucumber that I started from seed. It's beautiful, so I'm hoping that this would continue on. And I've also started doing the trimming of the shoots and the suckers so that it would only have like one main vein or one main branch. Okay. So here's some more tomatoes. Here's another one, and this one is a great example of just, you never know what's gonna happen to the garden. When I planted this tomato on this section, I didn't expect much because I realized it's gonna get shaded out, but I left it alone and I watered it. But after it grew enough to be to have sun hitting its leaves overneath this, because this is the plant that was shading it, then it just took off. So you can see it's growing that way and growing this way. So I'm controlling the way that this plant is growing. I really don't want it climbing up. I just want it to climb horizontally. So then I'll just put a little trellis here and give them support. And then this is the celebrity plant, the one that I bought from the store. I've said this many times on the videos, but this is another example of cutting all those branches. My son the other day said, "What's happening with the plant?" Because it seems like all the leaves came off. And I said, well, I trimmed them. So I realized that's what I need to do. So the one thing that I did wrong, I realize it now, is there are some branches here that that I trimmed too much, or I didn't leave, like this particular tomato, for example. This one is connected to this, and then there's nothing here. What I should have done was left the leaves that were on top of this, because that's, I found out later, that's the leaves are the ones that are gonna pull energy to make this sweeter. So now I know that when I am cutting out leaves, that I need to make sure that I leave the stuff that are right over the tomatoes. Okay, so here's some more tomatoes. It's the same breed. It probably will require a little bit more trimming, I think, this one. And then we have the figs. So the figs are starting to, or have started to give me fruits. I have, this year was really a year of thinning out and trimming trees and plants. So this plant has never been trimmed before until this year. So when it was dormant, when it didn't have all of these leaves, and this was probably around January, I started cutting, and you can see the evidence of my cuts, like right here. I started cutting, so the intention is to just have main branches come out and clear this entire section so that it would have more air circulation. And it looks very pretty. It looks like a bonsai plant, but it used to be just foliage all over here. You can't see through. If I had allowed it to grow the way it used to, it would, you can't see through, and that doesn't help. It's not pretty. It looks very dense, and so now it's just a little bit more controlled, and then I'm hoping that that technique would just make the plant concentrate on the tips, and that's to give out roots. And I might end up even trimming some of these new growth right here, because it's getting too tall. Same thing with the crepe myrtle. I trimmed this so that there's no branches in the middle, and so as you notice, that's the trend that I'm following, that nothing's growing in the middle, that they're all kind of going to the side to encourage circulation. All right, so here in this section here, my okra is finally, it looks like it's gonna start giving me flowers soon. And I have sage. Looks like I have a broccoli there that finally sprouted. I've thrown so many seeds on this area just to see which one would grow, and whatever grows grows. And then this is my my comfrey, and then this is my cucumbers. You can see that cucumbers going here, and then more tomatoes, and then I have a bean. So I'm also following almost the three sister technique, where you have a nitrogen fixer alongside, and a squash alongside a main plant. So the three sisters is actually supposed to be corn, squash, and a bean, which is a nitrogen fixer. So the concept is that it would provide shade and nutrients, and kind of, it's like a symbiotic relationship. But I don't want to grow corn, at least not for now. So last time I did that, I tried to do the three sisters, and some rodent killed my corn. So I may have to just might have to do that for next season. All right. Then I have this plant. This pot really was meant for this cutting. This is a moringa cutting, and what do you call this? Calamansi cutting. But then this thing sprouted. So it's a type, I don't think it's a cucumber. It has a different shaped leaf, or maybe it's a different type, but I'm hoping it's, see, you can see the little buds there. I'm hoping it's cantaloupe, because that's the one thing that I've been seeding that hasn't sprouted for me. I know it's not watermelon, so let's see what happens there. Okay. And I'm just going all over the place. Okay. So here are the plants, the trees, the apple trees that I bought. Probably won't put that down till next year. It's too late now. And here's the one thing that I bought, no, I got new. So remember earlier today, I was talking about how when I ask for something, God will provide it at one point of time or another. So this is a great testament of that. I think it was Saturday last weekend. I was outside and I was at the store with my nephew and my sister-in-law, and I was looking for decorative pots to put my little pots in. And so they were like $6 to like $25. They were crazy expensive, so I ended up buying one for like the lowest amount. And then the same day I posted on Nextdoor that I'm looking for pots. So this lady said, I have pots. So I'm thinking she has pots like these pots, and this is what I was looking for, because I've been giving away a lot of plants and I was running out. So I come home, no, I come to her house, and she gave me, and I'll come back to that plant right there, but she gave me a whole bunch of pots like these, the ceramic ones. They're really pretty ones. Like that's one, and here's another one. But there was like a dozen of them that she gave me. So I was so overjoyed, because it was just a day ago where I was kind of slobbering over the pretty pots and not wanting to spend any money. So I happily took it off of her hands, picked it up from her house, and then when we were loading the car, she just said, oh, and would you like a lemon tree? And it's funny because that same morning I was on Leg Creek Farms website and looking for Meyer lemon tree, because my brother's house, they have a couple of those, so I wanted one for myself. And so I was looking online, and I didn't want to spend the money, so I put it down. And lo and behold, a few hours later, this lady said, do you want a lemon? And I said, oh yeah, sure, if you don't want to use it, I mean, if you don't want to keep it, what kind is it? A Meyer lemon, which is exactly what I was looking at that morning. So God is really good to me. Not has been, God is really great. God is good all the time. He provides me in ways so unexpectedly many times, and it just provides me so much joy. And you know, that's his way of really giving me a heads up, or a nod, a God nod, that I hear you, I got you, and I'm with you always. And I'm gonna start crying, but anyways, yeah, so this is God's gift, all of this. Actually, another one of God's gift is bananas. So I've been looking up bananas too, and didn't want to spend any money as usual, so I posted on Nextdoor, does anyone have any bananas pops? And obviously our neighbor said yes, because now I have like 4 pots that have bananas. I'm so overwhelmed sometimes with just how good he is to me. And look, I have tomatoes just growing, and these 3 are volunteer tomatoes. So he's just showing another volunteer tomato, another volunteer tomato. He's just showing me another volunteer tomato. He's just showing me that he hears me all the time, and that I think, well, I want to believe that this is his little way of smiling at me and saying that he takes joy in my joy. So yeah, a lot of these stuff that comes up on the dirt are really because he